Welcome to Kino Lion. Today we're recapping both parts of the original epic classic, The Odyssey. Expect chaotic gods, terrifying monsters, and the ultimate 20-year road trip. Let's dive in.
The journey begins not with a choice, but with a duty. Right after the birth of his son Telemachus, Odysseus is drafted into service by Agamemnon to participate in the monumental historical clash. His wife Penelope is understandably devastated. Realizing the grim reality that he might never return, Odysseus leaves her with a heavy heart and a practical command. If their son reaches manhood and he is still gone, she must remarry, so Ithaca will have a proper king to teach the boy his responsibilities. Cut to 10 long years later, and the conflict is still dragging on. Along the way, the legendary champion Achilles gets forcefully promoted to an ancestor. So Odysseus cooks up a brilliant, sneaky plan to finally end the whole mess and successfully evict the current owners of Troy. His genius idea? A massive wooden horse to sneak inside the gates. A priest named Laocoon tries to warn the Trojans that this is a total trap, but out of nowhere, a wild sea monster shows up and takes him off the census. With the horse trick working flawlessly, they successfully take over the city. But instead of being humble, Odysseus lets his massive ego take the wheel. He openly mocks the gods, bragging that he achieved this massive victory entirely on his own, without any of their help. Big mistake. Huge. This major disrespect absolutely infuriates Poseidon, who, by the way, was the one who sent that sea monster after Laocoon. Poseidon makes a solemn vow right then and there. Odysseus is never, ever making it back home. While trying to sail back, Poseidon drops a super thick fog, causing Odysseus and his crew to shipwreck right on the island of the Cyclopes. A giant one-eyed creature named Polyphemus traps the whole squad inside his cave. But Odysseus is playing chess while the giant is playing checkers. He introduces himself using the fake name Nobody, and then tricks the giant into consuming too much fancy nectar until he completely loses focus. While the giant is entering standby mode, Odysseus upgrades a tree branch into a high-impact pointer and shuts down his only available webcam. The crew manages to escape by hiding under the bellies of the sheep when the giant rolls away the heavy stone blocking the entrance. Polyphemus screams to his giant brothers for help, but thanks to the clever trick, he literally shouts, "Nobody has hurt me." The brothers just walk away, but Odysseus just can't keep his mouth shut. He taunts the giant and brags about his actual name, completely clueless that the giant's dad happens to be Poseidon himself. Hearing his son's cries for payback, Poseidon vows to upgrade the difficulty settings for our bragging hero. Next stop, Odysseus visits the palace of Aeolus, the god of the wind. Aeolus turns out to be a great guy and decides to help. He literally custom packs almost every single chaotic storm and fierce gale into a massive, heavy-duty leather bag, zipping it up so tight it looks like an overinflated tire. The only wind left free is a gentle, pleasant breeze to smoothly cruise Odysseus and his squad straight home. But the crew completely ruins the vibe. Instead of staying chill, they get incredibly greedy. Watching their leader guard this heavily stuffed container, they start whispering behind his back, convinced he's gatekeeping some premium, sparkling, legendary loot. The very second Odysseus falls asleep, the squad conducts the most disastrous unboxing video in history. They open the bag way too early, just days away from home, and get violently blown far out into the deep sea by the escaped storm winds. They wash up at the palace of Circe, a beautiful witch who tricks the crew into eating enchanted food that magically transforms them into wild animals. Luckily, the gods feel bad for Odysseus and send Hermes to help out. Hermes gives him a special protective plant called Molly, which completely immunizes him against Circe's magic, so he can confront her safely. Circe turns the crew back into humans, but only after Odysseus promises to spend 5 days with her. The catch? She casts a massive illusion, and when he finally snaps out of it, he realizes he actually spent 5 whole years there. He rushes down to the shore in total disbelief, finding his ship deeply buried in the sand by the tide. He lays down the law, making it crystal clear she's about to be evicted from the mortal realm for deceiving him. But Circe drops a truth bomb. Only the mystical seer Tiresias can guide him home. The problem? Tiresias has been resting in peace for ages, meaning Odysseus needs to travel all the way to the afterlife department.
With a little guidance from the gods, Odysseus digs out his ship and sails straight into that spooky destination. Meanwhile, back home in Ithaca, a bunch of random guys suddenly show up at the palace, fully intending to marry Penelope, which absolutely annoys the now fully grown Telemachus to no end. Arriving at the underworld, Odysseus steps right into an absolute nightmare zone. Everything around is engulfed in non-stop fire, and the restless souls of people who already checked out of the mortal realm are wandering through the flames in pure chaos. Navigating through this fiery madness, Odysseus finds Tiresias on the plains of Elysium. The prophet immediately starts roasting him, recognizing his courage and wit, but deeply criticizing his massive ego and absolute foolishness. After Odysseus drops a ram into the river Styx to get some answers, Tiresias drops the ultimate navigation update. The only way back home is to sail past a treacherous isle where the infamous monsters Scylla and Charybdis live. Right after that, Odysseus encounters his mother, Anticlea. She reveals she actually chose to exit the game of life early because the emotional pain of losing her son was just too much to handle. She issues a strict warning. He must return home immediately, or his royal crown and his wife will be lost to him forever. Back on Ithaca, Penelope is playing for time. She states that she will pick a new partner only after she finishes weaving her custom slow-fashion masterpiece for her elderly father-in-law, Laertes. However, she pulls off a classic delay tactic, unpicking the fabric every single night just to weave it again the next day. Her plan seems to work flawlessly, until a suitor named Eurymachus learns the absolute truth from Melanthe, the handmaiden he acts like a romantic undercover agent with. With the secret out, he and the other suitors resort to making life absolute chaos for the inhabitants of Ithaca with their heavy entourages, refusing to leave until Penelope agrees to marry. Cut back to the sea, where Odysseus's boat nears the perilous isle. First, Scylla reaches out directly from her high cave inside the cliff, using her several snapping heads to pick off and consume the entire crew. Right after that, the vessel falls directly from the cave area down a massive waterfall, where Charybdis is waiting below. The boat gets caught by its back section, leaving everyone hanging on for dear life. Several men lose their grip and drop straight into her massive jaws, before the entire ship finally gives way and falls in as well. Odysseus alone survives the disaster and washes up on a hidden isle, which happens to be the home of the goddess Calypso. She completely entrances the king and forces him to stay stranded with her for 2 whole years. Meanwhile, Telemachus is absolutely desperate to uncover his father's final status. He prays to Athena, who instructs him to sail straight for Sparta and seek out Menelaus, one of Odysseus's former wartime comrades. When Telemachus tracks down Menelaus, the king delivers some grim news, stating he believes Odysseus is no longer on the census, given the simple fact that if he were still active, he would have returned to his family by now. Hearing about this trip back on Ithaca, the toxic suitors immediately plot to get rid of Telemachus for good, viewing the young man as a direct threat to their plans. Finally, Hermes steps in and orders Calypso to release Odysseus, in strict accordance with the will of the fates. But the journey home on a makeshift raft is anything but smooth. Odysseus is confronted by Poseidon himself in the middle of a fierce, roaring storm. A massive battle of wills follows. Odysseus demands to know what he did to deserve the gods' absolute wrath, and he gets told straight up he must accept his place as a mere mortal man, whose glory is only allowed by the generosity of Olympus. The next morning, an unconscious Odysseus is found on the shore by a party of Phaeacian girls who serve the princess Nausicaa. By her direct order, Odysseus is secretly transported and dropped off at a remote harbor right in Ithaca. Telemachus successfully survives an intense face-off with the head suitor Antinous, and finally reunites with his father. To keep things under wraps, Athena magically disguises Odysseus as a ragged, impoverished peasant. He arrives at his former palace just as Penelope decides to hold a high-stakes contest among the suitors, promising to choose the exact one who can successfully restring her husband's legendary bow and use it. After Odysseus completely dominates the competition and wins the contest, Athena lifts his disguise. With his true identity revealed, Odysseus, heavily assisted by Telemachus, unleashes a nightmare on Eurymachus and the rest of the suitors that makes his recent trip to the underworld look like a relaxing spa day. Once the palace is finally cleared of the freeloaders, Odysseus is successfully reunited with Penelope. After resisting an entire army of pushy men for 20 years, she proved absolutely defenseless against just one intense look from her long-lost king.
Well, at least your daily commute isn't a 20-year journey. If you enjoyed this ride, please smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. See you in the next video.